Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gruff Talk, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and age better. Before we dive in today, just a quick reminder that you can subscribe to Gruff Talk wherever you listen to podcasts, including right on my own website, barbarahannahgrufferman.com. And if you have questions for me or suggestions for topics or people you want to see me interview and things to talk about on the show, just email me at grufftalkpodcast@gmail.com. And thank you so much to all of you who have taken the time to send in your questions and topic ideas. They're all so great, and I'm really hoping to get to all of them. In fact, one of the emails we received is the topic of today's episode. We recently did an episode with Dr. Margaret Nachtigall. She's the doctor and she's an endocrinologist who I partner with on Menopause Cheat Sheet newsletter. It's a free newsletter that we send out every week to help women navigate the very treacherous waters sometimes before, during, and after menopause. So anyway, we talked about belly fat and why it happens so easily to women who go through menopause and what you can do about it. So Dr. Margaret gave a really great explanation of what was happening medically and then gave some really good tips on what to do. And if you haven't listened to that one yet, you really don't want to miss it. But in that episode, we also covered a few new studies that have just come out about health and wellness. We always like to bring that to your attention. And one of them was about measuring your grip strength. And I had written about that in Menopause Cheat Sheet a few months ago, but a new study had come out and how important it is for your overall health and wellness, and especially your future health and wellness. And so this grip strength, meaning how hard can you grip something? And it can be measured very easily and quickly and inexpensively in a doctor's office, a physical therapist office, or even at home with a very inexpensive tool. I got myself one on Amazon. It's called a dynamometer. Dynamometer. Yeah, that's it. Hard to pronounce. Dynamometer, yes. All right, so I propose that you all just get one. Again, they're really inexpensive, and then you don't have to go somewhere to measure, and you can keep tabs on this very key measurement. According to one very important, very recent study that we reviewed during that episode, having a weak grip can indicate a greater risk for dementia and frailty as you get older. So how can you improve your grip strength? Well, exactly what you think would do the trick. Regular exercise with a focus on building back muscle mass with strength training and resistance training. But I bring this up because some of you wanted to know if there were other key measurements that maybe you weren't aware of that we should all pay more attention to as we get older. And as it turns out, yes, there absolutely are. And thank you so much for asking. So you made my day when I got those emails. So based on that question, today we're going to talk about the top 10. That's a great number, right? Top 10. The top 10 most important measurements you need to know about to age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. So no one really likes being measured, right? But we live in an imperfect world filled with all kinds of complicated and unfair ways to measure a person's skills, talents, character, abilities, and even worth. While certain numbers can be tossed in the can, there are some you should pay attention to. So let's take a deep dive into measurements that are truly important and say bye-bye, kiss goodbye, the ones that aren't. So first, here are a few, they're just 3 measurements that we just don't like. We don't like them. One is age. It's just one aspect of the human measurement stick, right? Age is a measurement of one's life, of which we should all make note, of course, and celebrate with joy each year. I love my birthday. I hope you all do too. However, it should never define you. It is, after all, just a number. Another one is weight. This is a complicated one. I want you to really pay attention to this one. Women often, but not always, gain weight when going through menopause. And again, we covered that with Dr. Margaret in that episode. It's insidious because it sneaks up on you. And if we don't pay attention to what's happening and don't make the necessary changes to what to eat or how to move your body, the postmenopausal pounds will come. Now, while weighing yourself is kind of one measurement, right, that most people kind of traditionally use, it can be very tricky because it's less about the exact number you see on the scale and more about whether that number happens to be your ideal healthy weight, not your neighbors, not your best friends. How will you know? Well, ask yourself these questions, and also maybe discuss with your physician, your healthcare provider. 1, do you feel good? 2, do you have energy and feel, like some vitality? And 3, are your health check numbers in the normal range? If the answers are yes, yes, and yes, then those should be your guide, not the scale. Okay, now this one is really interesting. Body mass index, BMI. We've been hearing about this for years. BMI, like that has been the gold standard, but it really is now obsolete. It's an obsolete way to measure health and fitness, and here's why. Since the 1980s, 2 simple measurements have been used to assess people's overall health: height and weight. And after an easy calculation, you can determine your body mass index, BMI. But using BMI as a way to measure overall health is misleading for a simple reason, because BMI is based on weight. It doesn't differentiate between fat and muscle, telling us nothing about body composition. So consider this: a bodybuilder without an ounce of fat on her and a couch potato who is overweight with a large belly, indicating central obesity, as we call it, or visceral fat around the belly, that can have the same height and weight. They can both have the same height and weight, and therefore the same BMI. But the bodybuilder will have much more muscle mass than fat. So who do you think is healthier between the two? Women who have the same BMI. You see the point? A study conducted by psychologists at UCLA showed the results of what happened when the researchers measured the subjects' BMIs in conjunction with other measures. Almost half of those people who were labeled obese or overweight because of their BMIs were actually healthy, and over a third of those with normal BMIs were considered unhealthy. So clearly, measuring overall health using just BMI is obsolete. So now let's get to those numbers that really do matter, the ones that we love. Well, we love to keep tabs on anyway. So there are measurements essential to our well-being, and these are numbers we should truly care about and know about, especially as we get older, so we can age better. Number 1, height. Get your height checked every year or 2 to make sure you're not losing inches, because some loss of height is normal as we age, but too much can indicate bone loss. You all know I'm really big on bone and bone health, and bone loss is a big thing. Bone loss due to osteoporosis or a spinal deformity like scoliosis. On average, Americans lose about half an inch of height per decade after turning 40. But a lot of that can be slowed down by a healthy diet and regular exercise, especially strength training. But do get your height checked. Number 2, waist size. We also covered that in that episode with Dr. Margaret, but it's so important. I just like to keep at it with you guys. A visceral fat is a sneaky kind of evil fat that you just can't see. It worms your way around your internal organs. I know, it's horrible. And it's metabolized by the liver, which turns it into cholesterol in the blood. And having excess belly fat, even if you're in the normal weight category, puts you at a much greater risk for all kinds of health issues: metabolic syndrome, diabetes, heart disease, certain cancers, stroke, dementia, and even sexual dysfunction in men. How do you know if you have it? Well, skip the scale, as we already advised. Skip the scale and bring out the tape measure. Your waist size should be less than 35 inches, ideally. The best way to get rid of belly fat, which is actually much easier to shed than the extra padding around your tush or your thighs, is to move your body by walking or running at least 30 minutes every day. Cut back on foods you know are not good for you. And definitely listen to episode 10 of Gruff Talk, where Dr. Margaret and I discussed this exact challenge. Number 3, waist to hip ratio. Dr. Margaret talked about that at length, actually. The proportion of your waist to your hips is a predictor of heart attacks and cardiovascular disease. Can you believe that? Measure your waist at the smallest point, then measure your hips at the widest point. Divide the first number by the second number, and your goal should be that that number is less than 0.85. You got that? So tape measures have become much more important in your life. Number 4, daily steps. Now, there's been a lot of talk about 10,000 steps not being really all that necessary. I don't know. I'm sticking with it. It's been established by many sources and studies that walking 10,000 steps every day, not even all at the same time, is essential to good health and overall fitness. And it will help shed the evil visceral fat for good too. Buy a simple pedometer and put it on in the morning and check periodically to make sure you'll reach your goal by evening, or even your smartphone will be able to do that for you if you kind of carry it in your pocket. Or like I do, I wear an Apple Watch. And so, all of my movements are, I'm constantly being monitored. But remember this, every single step puts you one step closer to better health. Number 5, blood pressure. Simply put, blood pressure is the force of blood against artery walls when the heart beats and then rests. The ideal blood pressure for women is less than 120/70. Blood pressure of 140/90 or higher indicates hypertension, which is high blood pressure, which means your heart is working a lot harder than it should. Hypertension is directly linked to lifestyle, directly. Smoking, not moving your body, too much belly fat, and eating too much salty processed food. If you make small changes in your life, you can naturally bring your pressure down. However, sometimes genetics does play a part for sure, and then medications might be necessary, but that's a discussion with your healthcare provider. After this short break, we'll finish the top 10 list of the most important measurements you'll ever take. Okay, we're back, and now let's get to number 6. Triglycerides. Yes, your triglyceride level is another strong indicator of potential cardiovascular disease. Triglycerides are a type of fat very similar to cholesterol found in the blood. The acceptable numbers for women are lower than those for men, even though the American Heart Association says that the acceptable level is under 150. Recent studies conducted by the AHA and the Women's Health Initiative, very, very important research group, suggest that a postmenopausal woman's risk for cardiovascular disease increases after her level goes beyond 50. And most women, and many doctors, unfortunately, are not familiar with these latest studies. This should be an essential part of the discussion you have with your primary care physician at your next annual checkup. Definitely make sure when you get that blood work done, everyone, make sure that triglycerides is on the list. Number 7, cholesterol. Sure, the ideal cholesterol level for women is under 200 total. The HDL, which is the good cholesterol, should be higher than 60, and the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, should be under 100. If a woman has a total cholesterol level of over 240, that is considered high. And again, lifestyle plays a major role, but genetics can also influence your number. We know that having high cholesterol levels in your blood, and especially if the LDL level is high, puts you at risk for heart disease and stroke. Number 8 is one of my favorites, and it's really new to me only for a few years. Resting heart rate. Your pulse, especially measured while you're sitting still, is a key indicator of cardiovascular health. So check your heart rate regularly. Now, you can do it the old-fashioned way, just by putting 2 fingers on your pulse, either at your neck or on your wrist, and count how many beats you feel in 15 seconds. Multiply that number by 4 to get the number of beats per minute. Or make your life easy like I do and wear a fitness watch or a band that measures your heart rate continuously, even while you sleep. So here's your target. The target resting heart rate is between 60 and 100 beats per minute, but 60 really should be the goal because 60 is the ideal. Number 9, blood sugar, your blood sugar glucose level. Your ability to regulate blood sugar is harder once you're over 50. The ideal level is under 100. Blood sugar levels normally go up and down during the course of the day. If you're taking really good care of yourself, eating well, moving your body, the shifts will be minor. However, if you're not, blood sugar levels can spike and crash, wreaking all kinds of havoc with your body and your brain, and can precede diabetes. The single most effective way to regulate blood sugar is, drum roll please, by eating healthy foods and moving your body every day. And here's a really good tip. This is science-backed, take a 30-minute walk after dinner every night to cut your risks. And number 10, vitamin D. Oh, yes, what I love to call the little vitamin that could. Vitamin D's importance in promoting bone health and reducing risk of osteoporosis by helping with the absorption of calcium is so well established. So I won't even go into detail here, just believe it. But there's ongoing evidence that the sunshine vitamin, as we also call it, can reduce the risk of other diseases. And we also discussed this in the recent episode with Dr. Margaret, including the risk for developing dementia. The ideal level of vitamin D in your blood should be 34 or higher. That's the number you want to see, 34 or higher. So make sure your healthcare provider adds this test into your blood work every year too. So postmenopausal women should take about 1,200 to 1,500 IUs, international units, IUs every day. However, many doctors we interviewed confided that they personally take at least 4,000 IUs a day. I personally take 5,000 IUs every single day. So everyone, that's our top 10 list of all the ways that you can measure your body so that you can age better. I hope you will put these tips to good use, and please share all this information. And I so look forward to getting more of your ideas and your questions. Again, go to grufftalkpodcast@gmail.com, and I will get to as many of them as I can. Really looking forward to it. And thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Gruff Talk, please do 2 things. First, share it with all your friends and family, and subscribe to Gruff Talk wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.